Hello there. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about GMRS and what that stands for. GMRS is the General Mobile Radio Service. All right, so it's a licensed UHF radio service for personal and family communications. You might be familiar, I know for quite a few years we've had FRS, which is the family radio service. I actually have a couple inexpensive radios, but it's a very low power service. um, the GMRS service, it's a licensed service, but it does offer a lot more higher power and a longer range than what the FRS would offer. Now, it is governed by the FCC Part 95 rules, so you do need a license, but it's definitely pretty easy to obtain. There's no test. All right, and as I mentioned, who can use it? Really, anybody can use it. You just need to be 18 years or older. It does require a license from the FCC, but as I mentioned, there's no testing involved, and it's only $35 for 10 years. So when you think about it, it's $3.50 for a year, which is not really bad. I think I applied for mine in 2022 with the FCC, and it's still good until like 2032. And the other nice part of it is, if you've got a family and you have several individuals, maybe your wife, your husband, maybe you have some children that are 18 or above, anybody in your immediate family can use that license. So once you are given a license, and there's a call sign involved with that, um, it covers you and your immediate family. So you don't need to spend the $35 for every member of the family. And I do suggest getting the license just to be in compliance. The FCC website, of course, it's fcc.gov, and you can go to the website. They have a whole section on licensing and databases, and it's a pretty simple process to go through. I may do a video about the process to actually go through it. Just kind of doing a little bit of an overview of GMRS today, but I would like to go into some more detail. Um, as far as what you can transmit on GMRS frequencies and channels, um, there are a total of 22 channels, and some of those do overlap with the family radio service, FRS. You have channels 1 through 7, and those are shared with FRS, and those are all lower power channels. Then you have channels 8 through 14, which are really FRS only with low power. And then you've got channels 15 to 22, GMRS only, and those can be used with higher power, 15 through 22. Now, there's also 8 additional repeater input-output pairs, which we'll get into more. The repeaters are something that allow you to transmit over a lot longer distances, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. What might be helpful, there's a really good GMRS frequency chart. This one's from www.gmrsfrequencies.com, and it has a little bit better detail than what I just described. You've got your first 7 channels here. Yeah, get a little pointer going here, but you got these first 7, which are shared between FRS and GMRS, and you can use 5 watts maximum. So these are lower power channels. And so if you do have a GMRS radio, it should automatically keep your power at 5 watts max. Now, there's also channels 8 through 14, which are really just FRS primary channels for the family radio service, and those are only 500 milliwatts. So those are very low power channels. Then you've got your GMRS again back at 15 through 21. This 15 through 21, these can be simplex or repeater outputs, okay? And we're going to talk more about that, but your power layer can get up to 50 watts. I actually have a mobile radio for the car that will transmit at 50 watts, which is pretty nice. The handhelds I have, I believe, are only 5 watts max. Um, as far as the simplex or repeater outputs, you've also got this channel 22. So it's really 15 to 22 here that are generally used for repeater frequencies. And we're going to talk more about that. Um, the power and range. You mentioned me talk about power and range. It really varies quite a bit as far as range. You can't really give an exact range because it depends on whether you're in a hilly area, are you in a city, are you in a flat open area. Your handhelds typically, the handheld type radio like the walkie-talkies are anywhere from like 1 to 5 watts normally. And then your base or mobile radios that you might have in your house or in a car, those can be up to 50 watts. Now your real world range can vary. With a handheld, I would say you'd be very lucky to get out to 5 miles. A 1 mile, I could see it's going to be somewhere in that 1 to 5 mile range. Now, when you start talking about repeaters, it can depend a lot about the repeater itself. Where is it located? Is it in a high piece of ground, high area, elevation-wise? What kind of antenna do they have? I mean, you could get 10 to 20 miles of range using a repeater. And basically, what that does is you could be using a walkie-talkie, and as long as you're in range of that repeater, what it does is it takes in your signal from your handheld and then it retransmits it. So that's what basically repeating your signal, and it's sending it out of the repeater station, and then somebody else, say 10, 15 miles on the other end of it, could you could communicate with them just using your handheld. But the key is to be able to be within range of a repeater, and we'll show a little bit more of that too. Again, I mentioned the GMRS repeaters. Those extend your communication range significantly, and those use the designated repeater channels, which are 15 to 22. Um, those require settings. So one of the big things is it's some radios can be a little bit challenging to program. There are a lot of options out there. There are Bluetooth dongles. There are USB cables that connect to radios, and you've got software. There's like Chirp. One I'm familiar with is Oddmaster as well. There's some software out there that will help you program those. And then there's really good websites out there too. We have things like the input and output frequencies. You need to know those. There's also tone codes, which we can talk more about these in another video, the PL, CT, CSS tone codes. But repeaters often have specific tone codes so that you need to know that in order to be able to use that repeater. So I'm one that suggests, if you've got a local GMRS club, it'd be really good to get to know the people there and maybe join and then get those codes. And you can also go to mygmrs.com, which is a great website that you can sign up for, and it will list local repeaters and where they're at in your area. All right, and like I mentioned, these are the channels 15 to 22 would be those channels that you would want. But it's not just simply a matter of knowing the frequency, like, oh, channel 16 is 462.575 megahertz. You're going to need to know what the tone codes are to be able to use that repeater. And this is really just I believe that frequency would just be the repeater output. The other thing is you're going to have to know what the input frequency is and the tone code in order to use it. So it's a lot more than just knowing that frequency on this chart. All right, as I mentioned, mygmrs.com is a great website for information on repeaters and so on. Um, I just went to the website and I'm actually looking at the map. This is actually a really good tool here. You can go over like this is Jonesville. Okay, this would be located in Kentucky. Looks like it's a little bit west of Dry Ridge, Williamstown. And all I have to do is hover over that, and it gives you a general idea of what the range of that repeater is. So basically, if you're anywhere in that green circle, you might have a good shot. Now, of course, it depends on what radio you're using. If you're using a little handheld and you're all the way out at the edge of this circle, you may or may not be able to reach the repeater effectively. But the repeater itself should be able to retransmit your signal to about anybody within that circle. So that's really good to know. Looks like here there's three different repeaters in this general area. Crittenden, Kentucky's got one. Here's one here. Wow, they got a pretty huge circle. Uh, that's pretty good, really. All the way down to Falmouth, almost to Rising Sun, Indiana. So this can be a really good resource. Here's Hamersville, Ohio. Huge range, almost to the Ohio River here. When you hover over that, that's really pretty amazing. So it actually, if I click on that, it does give me the frequency. Now you recall that I showed you a chart of the repeater channels, but you need to know the output tone. There's an output tone and an input tone. In this video, I'm not going to really go into the programming of the radios. I actually do want to do one because I have a couple TID radio handhelds with a Bluetooth dongle, and I'd like to go through the setup of that, just kind of give you an idea how that works. Um, the estimated range of that repeater is 10.2 miles. This one's an open system, so I believe that means that really anybody's able to use it. It's not just a private repeater. Some repeaters are private. In some cases, you need to join a club in order to get the tones. Like it's not, these tones are not always available. And it gives you an idea of when it was last updated for information-wise, because it's always possible that a repeater might decide to change the tones. Maybe they're going to change frequencies, who knows? So that gives you a good idea that that information was updated about 4 months ago. So I would suggest going to this website, getting a login and play around with it a little bit and see what you think. All right. I mentioned a little bit about typical GMRS equipment. There are handhelds and mobile base radios. Handhelds wise, some of the popular brands are from Baofeng, Midland, TID Radio. I have a couple TID radio units, and then Wuxin. I'm really bad on the pronunciation. I'm not sure I got that right. The Chinese manufacturer. Those are some of the popular radios. And you want to make sure that they are specific for GMRS use. I think I bought my TID radios off of Amazon. There's mobile and base radios as well. I believe the one I have is a Midland, and those are for vehicle use or home use. And then there's repeater capable radios, which I'm personally not that familiar with, but these are devices that would be used in a repeater setup. Now, keep in mind the legal do's and don'ts. I did mention that you do need a license for this service. Again, it's only $35 for 10 years, but some of the legal things, you're not allowed to broadcast encrypted or coded messages. They need to be, just plain speech. And you need to ID with a call sign. Some people are better than this than others. I also come from a ham radio background, so I'm very familiar with the need to identify. Now, with GMRS, it's typically, about every 15 minutes or so. Um, Periodically every 15 minutes and at the end of transmission. So when you're done at the very end, you should give your call sign, but it's not like ham radio where typically every exchange you're giving your call signs back and forth each time. But business use is also not allowed. You're not allowed to use this for some kind of business if you're, running your own little mower service or, lawn company or whatever it is. You're not to use these for business purposes. This is just for general public use. And you also want to make sure you're using approved GMRS radios, not any kind of amateur radio or any kind of modified equipment that is considered illegal. Um, yeah, I talked a little bit about it earlier, the differences between GMRS versus FRS. I had a couple FRS radios. I mean, those are okay. They're only good for just very short range. GMRS gives you a lot more power. It does require a license, and it's $35, but honestly, that's not very bad for 10 years. The FRS, it's no license, but it is a lot lower power. You don't have access to repeaters. It's going to be very, very short range. Maybe in hundreds of yards versus anything else. It's very short range. Now GMRS versus ham radio or amateur radio is it's also known. Of course, amateur radio gives you a lot more flexibility and range, but with that, it does require testing. I do have a license. I've got a general class license currently. Um, so there is testing involved with that. I mean, you can talk worldwide with amateur radio, but that's not always something that everybody wants. A lot of people just want to be able to communicate with family. They want for family communications. Maybe you're hiking, overlanding, prepping. You're worried about the cell phone towers going down, not being able to communicate to family that maybe lives a mile or two down the road. GMRS is ideal for that. A neighborhood group, that type of thing. It's very good for that. Um, so some of my final thoughts, I would say, go visit the fcc.gov as far as getting a license. There's a lot of good resources out there. One of the guys that I've listened to a little bit, some of his reviews of equipment, there's Not a Rubicon who has a YouTube channel, and he's reviewed so many different kinds of radios. I would say that's a source for information. And I would say start with a good quality GMRS handheld or a mobile radio. Join the GMRS community online. I know, like with the local clubs here, they have pretty informal nets, which are people at certain times once a week they get together and chat. It's a good time to test your radio out, test your communications, check out different forums, mygmrs.com again, Reddit, YouTube, and so on. So I hope this information has been helpful. If it has been, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.